Hi friends, it's Belinda here from Be Making Joy, and welcome to my channel. This is episode 25 of What Brings Me Joy, a mostly knitting podcast from my home here in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. This is where I share with you my knitting projects so that everyone can hold me accountable for the things that I cast on. In this episode, I'm celebrating everything that I've finished in 2023, and I have shocked myself at the number of projects that I've finished. If you're new here, welcome. And if you're a returning viewer, I'm so glad to have you back. So since the last episode, I have finished 3 projects. The Anthology Throw, pattern by Helen Stewart. A Musselburgh hat for me, pattern by Isolde Teague. And what I've been calling Jeannie's Jeanine's hat, because it came in a box of yarn that she gave me. So it was a UFO unfinished object in a box of yarn that I received. Those are my 3 finished projects. I will tell you more about them later. This episode is going to have a slightly different format. I don't have any works in progress to show you. I have 8 projects left on the needles, none of which I've touched since last episode because I finished these 3. And I'm going to start with a new acquisition, and then we'll jump into a fashion show of 2023's projects. So my acquisition is not yarn, but it's knitting related, and I have no affiliations. I bought this off of Amazon. A Year of Knitting, a Perpetual Stitch Dictionary Calendar. A Stitch a Day Perpetual Calendar. So 366 stitches. I checked. Leap year's in here, February 29th. So I want to show you, cover the secret sauce, but here's January 1st stitch of the day. So there's a stitch for each day. Let's just randomly show you another one. And when I purchased it, I thought it might be neat to make special projects for special people based on the stitch of their birthday. I was going to start with one to remember my sister by, but I didn't really care for the stitch that's on her birthday. Actually, maybe I need to actually make a swatch to see if I like it for sure. And an idea I had, but that would require me focusing on nothing else but this for the entire year. And the idea I had was to do a swatch every day and put them together into a blanket. But yeah, that's not going to happen. But I'll do a few of the swatches throughout the year. That's my acquisition. Let's get into our fashion show. Okay, it's change of view here because most of my knitting stuff is stored in this bookcase here in front of me. So we started 2023 with me releasing a pattern for a Velvet Waves cowl. My daughter requested it in December, so I made one in December the previous year for her. And then as we were test knitting it, I made this one for myself. I think I will put it on. The hair will get pretty messy, but that's okay. Oops. So we used Bernat velvet yarn. It matches my previously released pattern for a headband. This one was made beforehand. And my daughter's specifications were if she needed to cover her nose, she could make it stay in place. Hence the ties and pom-poms. And then while I was working on this, a friend of mine requested a headband for her. I had previously given all my friends headbands, and she requested a replacement in a different color. And she didn't know I was working on a matching cowl. So I will insert pictures. I made her headband, and I surprised her with the matching cowl. So that's projects 2, 3. 1, 2, and 3 for 2023 was the 2 cowls and a headband. Then, also in January, I finished my Maritime Blanket. I will insert video from when I first showed you that, because where I was located when I did that video was a better place for showing you the full extent of that blanket. It's a full-size blanket. I don't remember the exact dimensions, but I'll insert the video. But it's a pattern from Mary Maxime, a kit that I've been working on for like 6 years. To give you a full view of it. Oops, it goes this way. So this is the Maritime Blanket. It's a pattern, a kit that came from Mary Maxime. Mary Maxime in Canada is a mail order company that has been in existence since the 1930s. So the yarns are Mary Maxime yarns. It all came complete in a kit. And I've been working on it for the past 4 or 5 years. It's done first. The horizontal stripes are done in a garter stitch, so miles of garter stitch. And then when that was complete, the vertical stripes were woven through with a tapestry needle, 1 column of knits at a time. And that took me quite some time to do, because I had to sit down on the floor or stand at the ping pong table to do it, and my knees couldn't stand that. So I'd work on it for a while and then put it away. I finished the vertical stripes back in February, but I still had the finishing touches to do. I still needed to trim off the ends of all those vertical stripes and fold over the hem and stitch it down, hiding all the tails inside the hem. Finished object number 5 is this project up on the wall behind me. I will insert a close-up for you. But this is my adaptation of the Beekeepers Quilt, patterned by Tiny Owl Knits. And I just saw a flashing light. My light is starting to flicker. Hope that doesn't get too annoying. My adaptation of the Beekeepers Quilt, I use the Memories in Yarn 2022 kit from Pearl Passion out of Estevan, Saskatchewan. And yeah, they're hexagons. Each row is I think it starts up here. Day 1 was up here, of the 24 mini skein set. Each honeycomb is made separately, and then they're joined together at the corners. And in Stephanie's pattern, the Beekeeper Quilt, she also suggests that you stuff them, but I didn't do that because it's a wall hanging for me. I have a note to my future self to always double knot when joining, because I had to repair a few of these corners. And you might notice that I used blocking wires to give the shape some structure to hang upon. Project number 6 is right here. The Catventure Scarf. This pattern is by Lisa Hannon Fox of Nifty Knitter Designs. It's double knit. So that means whatever the colors are on this side, it's the opposite colors on the other side. The yarns I've used is the dark blue is an earth yarn, and the purple is a Leolin Roxy yarn, fingering weights. She released this the previous fall, November, but I didn't get it finished until February, I think it was. She released it as a mystery knit along. So each section of the scarf follows the cat's adventures, and each section was released 1 week, then week 2, week 3, week 4. Let's see where I can show you. 4, Fruit in the Flower Bed, 5, and then the knitting changed direction to come down the other side. So it was 8 weeks of releases. Now the pattern is available in its entirety on her Ravelry page. And I'm putting links on the bottom in the description box below to the Ravelry page of any project that is available there. And Some of them are my own projects as well. I made the disclaimer that. My own designs. Okay, the Catventure Scarf. The project number 7 that I finished was the Snow Patrol sweater. And I'm going to have to insert video for you because I no longer have it because it was for somebody else. It was an unfinished object that my friend gave me to finish for her. It had been started by her mother decades before. And so I took it and examined it and finished it for her, and then she passed it on to another child in our congregation. So insert details for you there. Finished it. I will walk you through the process of finishing it. I'll insert a picture here. This is what it looked like when I received it. And you can tell that the knitter's tension had changed and mistakes were happening as her health failed. So I frogged it back to the good stuff. Then I had to decide what needles to use, what size to match her gauge. And by the way, I have tutorials on this channel of how to get gauge, how to adjust your needle size if you're not getting gauge. Then I had to count her stitches to confirm what size she was making. And I discovered that some of the pieces didn't have the armhole shaping finished. So I had to read through the entire pattern and fix those up and finish each piece before I started the yoke. And then, you know, I'll tell you, I did not like this pattern because I hate seaming. It was all worked in pieces, as you can see, and seamed together. And even when joined for the yoke was still worked back and forth, which annoyed me. I tried to join it and make it circular in the round yoke, but the stitch counts wouldn't work. So it joins at one of the back shoulders. This one is where the pieces meet together to join. So I was able to line up the pattern, but there are extra stitches tucked into the seam, the selvage stitches, which in the round would have made the pattern not meet upright. And then my first attempt at the neck was too large. So I went back 2 more needle sizes for the neck. And now she's all seamed up. The ends are all tucked in. And she's ready for a bath. The next FO is the 2022 Temperature Scarf. I managed to finish it sometime in February. So I had been making temperature blankets in 2020 and 2021. And I got tired of blankets and switched to scarves. So 2023, I have to work out which end it starts at here. Still using the same colors as I had for my original 2020 blanket, because at the time I dug out all of the old yarns that I had. Some of them are so old, they were from like Sellers and Kmart that don't exist in Canada anymore. So they're 20, 30-year-old yarns. And I laid them out in what I thought was an order from cool to hot. And knit a row for each day. In the scarf version, I simply started each row on the right. Yep. And left the tail and knit the row and left the other tail. Come back and start the next row on the other side. And again, left the tails. And then tied off each tail to the one from the row below it to secure them so they won't unravel. And rather than do anything with the tails, I've just left them because the stockinette naturally rolls in on itself. I'm okay with that. I have a 2023 blanket started. It fell behind in September when I started the Mystery Knit Along with Stephen West. So I need to get that one finished. Wear it for a while and I'll start a 2024. And my intention at that point is to sew the previous years together. So eventually I will have a blanket with 5 or 6 years in it. However many it takes until I think that's enough. That was project number 8. Project number 9, I will have to go and fetch because it was a hometown hoodie for my daughter. It was in her room. I will be back. Okay, FO number 9, the hometown hoodie for Elana. This was my design back in 2021. I named the pattern the hometown hoodie. I'm not very original with my naming because I used for the original one Lion Brand hometown yarn. This one I've used Karen Anniversary Cakes in the colorway Sour Cherry, which is a self-striping colorway in the giant cake. There's one left up there, giant cake of Karen Anniversary yarn, which is an acrylic. It's a bulky, super bulky yarn. It uses 10mm needles, which is the US size 15. So it's a very fast knit. It's raglan from the top down, separate for the sleeves and body. And I have a tutorial video on my channel here for how to do that separation. And then we come back and we pick up the stitches around the neck to make a collar or a hood. So that was that. Project number 10 is dishcloths, which I don't have any to show you, but you all know what dishcloths look like. They're in my laundry. I made maybe 2 or 3, but I'm only counting it once here as project number 10. It was my treadmill knitting back in the spring. Cotton yarn, of course, probably Bernat Handicrafter cotton. Yeah. Then FO number 11 is my Love Note sweater. This pattern is by Tin Can Knits, pretty popular pattern. The pattern is actually written for a DK weight yarn or a fingering and a lace held together. But I used Lion Brand Pound of Love, a discontinued colorway lavender. This one was a little on the thinner side of worsted, but I managed to hit gauge and it worked wonderfully. Perhaps I should have put it on for you. I did this together with Megan from Pearl Passion and some other friends as I knitted along. The only modification I made was in the back. There are short rows, and I attempted regular short rows and I attempted the German short rows and couldn't make them look right. So I learned how to do the Japanese short rows. So I don't think you'll be able to actually notice them. I'm not quite sure where they are. I tied a ribbon in the back so that I'd know which way is the back and which is the front. And then I came across my sock monkey. He was a UFO lying in the craft room for decades. I'm going to say almost 20 years. And I was going to frog him, scrap him, throw him away. Then I realized every single piece was knit. It was just waiting for its stuffing. So I assembled it. And yeah, I don't know. The pattern was a ripped out page from a magazine. So I have nowhere to direct you for a pattern. Or even what yarn this is. I have no idea. I'm assuming it's an acrylic. Doesn't matter. Finished object number 12 is the sock monkey. Okay, projects 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19 are flowers. I've made 7 of them over the year. I made this one first to replace one that was for myself, but then I sent it to my sister. I've made 2 more through in the year for my sister, who unfortunately passed away before I was able to give them to her. So I left them at my mother's house. I should have put them on the grave or something, but I just left them for my mother to deal with. Sorry, Mom. And then I've made 4 more, 2 bouquets for 2 different friends. I haven't had the opportunity to go visit them yet, but these 2 friends have moved into new apartments. They're both in the same building in separate apartments, and these were to be gift-forming gifts for them. So this pattern is Knit Flowers, the pattern by Jordan Chulce of Double End Knits. Fingering weight yarn or DK weight yarn. Gauge doesn't actually matter because it all grows dimensionally. And I knit the petals and assemble them, and then my daughter wraps the stems. The patterns are just wrapping in floral tape, but my daughter has a method where she's wrapping it in yarn. Okay. Project number 20 is the Elana Seafoam crop top that I made for myself. I made my first sample in 2022 for my daughter, Elana, so it's named after her because it was a joint project of her suggestions and my knitting. I made this one for myself while we were doing the test knitting and released the pattern in July of 2023. It's written for a DK weight yarn. Used the US 6 4mm needle. The yarn I've used in this sample is Nettle Soft DK from Ancient Arts Yarns here in Calgary, in the colorway Tea and Biscuits, which is a blend of superwash merino and nettle, which has temperature regulating properties. I wore it several times this summer and I found it very comfortable. Project number 21 is my half and half triangle wrap. There it is. I'm going to have a lovely pile of mess on the floor, but that's okay. The half and half triangle wrap is a pattern by Pearl Soho. It uses fingering weight yarn and a US 3.25mm needle. I did mine in Holst Coast yarn, a yarn from Denmark, in the colors lavender and jade. Holst Coast is 55% wool, 55% wool, 45% cotton blend. And it's very lightweight. This finished garment only weighs 250 grams. I bought the yarn from Denmark in cones, and it looks like I barely made a dent in the cones. So it's a square, but it's knit as 2 triangles, so I'm going to fold it in half here. So it can be worn like that. Very lightweight, nice for travel. Took me a long time because it's miles and miles of garter stitch and short rows to form the triangles. But it was fun. Now, project number 22 is my Over the Rockies shawl. Oops, there goes the hair. And I think my camera is tipping here. Not my usual stand. Over the Rockies shawl. There it is. My own design. I released it in April of 2023. What is the video doing? My previous version is up there on the, I can't even point to it. Blah, blah, blah. It's hanging on the closet up here. Blue and white and gray. It's my interpretation of the view from the airplane when flying over the Rocky Mountains. It's the knitting starts at the bottom and gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It's a ridge stitch representing the mountains, and then some sky at the top. DK weight yarn, 5mm needles, nice and drapey. And this sample I've done in Loops and Threads, which is the Michael's Store brand, Luxe Merino, which is a 55% superwash merino, 45% acrylic. Nice and drapey and cuddly. Yeah. Project number 23 is a Sophie scarf, which I need to go fix because a mannequin is wearing it in the other room. Okay, I switched tripods. Hopefully the camera will stop falling. The Sophie scarf is a pattern by Petite Knit. This is a very modified version of it, much smaller, I believe, than the actual would be. I don't remember what yarn and needles the pattern is actually written for, nor do I even know what yarn I used. This was leftover yarn from a t-shirt kit years ago from Mary Maxime. I weighed the yarn, used my scale to divide it, and marked the middle with a piece of tape and took it on the airplane with me. Knit until I reached the middle, did the increases as the pattern calls for until I reached the middle of my yarn, and then started the decrease. So it turned out much smaller, but look, a cute little ascot. Goes nicely. Could also be used as a hair tie. Anyway, very nice. I used an eggplant deep purpley color. I love it. Now, projects 24, 25, and 26 are my spa socks. A design that I was working on, I finished 3 sizes. Then I kind of got tired of designing, of writing patterns. Was falling behind on other things. So I haven't released the pattern yet. So 3 pairs here. And I call them spa socks. They will have no heels because they're not meant for walking in. You wear them when you're moisturizing. So it's an acrylic yarn so that the moisture will soak into your feet and not be absorbed by the yarn. And dividers for between the toes, because I like a nice stretch when I'm massaging my toes, moisturizing my toes. So simple 2x1, a simple 2x2 rib and I-cord toes. So at some point I'll finish writing the pattern and release it. I don't think it needs test knitters because it's a very simple pattern. I'll just find someone to proofread it for me and then I'll release it. Okay, finished object number 27 is right here. Come here. The Lemon Difficult Shawl, a pattern by Kate Afterly. I took a course at the Gathering Threads Festival in Edmonton on brioche with Kate Afterly. And her pattern starts at the point and gets bigger. It's a triangle. It just keep getting bigger until it's the size you want. So it works with any yarn, any size needles, whatever gives you the drape and fabric you want. I used in this one acrylic from Stash, old Stash. I think one was a Bernat and one was a Red Heart. I don't remember which one's which. So they're reversible. And I was going to use it all and make a nice big shawl, but it's so heavy, so warm. And I realized that if it was that warm that I wanted to wear this, I'd rather have a jacket instead of a shawl. If it was that cold that I needed to wear this. So I ended it to the point where I can just use it inside my jacket. The Lemon Difficult Shawl by Kate Afterly. Finished object number 28 is my daughter's Elana Seafoam skirt. I designed it to match the Elana Seafoam crop top that we released earlier. So, has that same Seafoam stitch on the bottom, which I didn't really highlight when I was showing you the crop top, but it's in the crop top, in the sleeves, and the waistband. So this knit starts from the waistband and works downward in the round. Elana, for hers, chose out of my stash Karen Cloud Cakes in the color Raspberry. It's an acrylic yarn by Karen. I made one later for myself in the Nettle Soft DK, so we'll get to that when we get there. Uses the same stitch gauge as the crop top, same needles, 4mm. Written for a DK weight yarn, although Karen Cloud Cakes is worsted. It's on the thinner side of worsted, so I hit the same gauge with this. That's that. Now, finished objects 29, 30, 31, 32, 33. I made 5 of this next item over the course of the summer. Let's see. I've still got 2 here. It's a bottle holder with a cell phone pocket. Water bottle holder. Get in there. Carry strap. Can't really show you a good view of it sitting down, but my foot's still bothering me. And then a pocket for the cell phone. And for the ones I gave away, I also attached a little carabiner so that you could carry your face mask if you're still doing that, or a set of keys, or some other emergency thing with you on your walk. Here we are. I've gathered the next few projects. Finished object number 34 was vanilla socks. I participated in July in Sock Week, hosted by Nitty Natty of the Love and Stitches podcast. And I used a pattern by Kay of the Crazy Sock Lady, her cuff down vanilla socks. And she has wonderful tutorials on her website. And I dabbled a bit in her summer sock camp. So these are done on, did I write down what size needles? I think they're 2.75mm needles, maybe 2.5. I think it's 75. Doesn't matter, it's whatever needles you need to get gauge, right? The yarn is Sock Needle from Ancient Arts. The color of the month for May, which was the Wreck of the Mary Rose. And I love this colorway. And they're very cozy. The pattern includes a heel flap and gusset. Yeah. What more is there to say about that? I attempted a few other socks over the summer, but that's the only pair that got finished. And then I did a test knit for Hannah Schreier, who is Key Laurie on Instagram. This is the budget tie top. It's a crop top. Although I went slightly longer than the pattern calls for, it's still kind of cropped on me. She calls it the budget tie because it uses very little yarn, and the yarn she designed it for was very economical. This one I used Stash, I used Lion Brand Kobu, and yes, I did have to switch colors because I ran out of the olive green. But I love these two colors together. So Kobu is a mixture of cotton and bamboo. Very soft, very drapey, very comfy for the summer. It's on 3.5mm needles, or of course whatever size you need to make gauge. Excuse me. Okay, friends, I've rested my voice. I've cleaned up a bit, gathered the rest of the projects, and moved over to the desk where I'm more comfortable. And I think the lighting is better here too. So, FO number 36 is the Ranunculus. I used the same yarn that I used in the Love Note because I wanted to compare the two patterns and because I had so much of that yarn left. The Lion Brand Pound of Love in the discontinued colorway Lavender on the lighter side of worsted weight. This is the Ranunculus pattern by Midori Hirose. Let's give you a closer look at that yoke. Like the Love Note, it's written for a DK weight yarn or a fingering and lace held together, but I managed to do it with lightweight worsted. It uses 6mm needles, but it gives a different stitch gauge than the Love Note does, so you'll need to do a gauge swatch and check what needle size you need if you want to get the right size knitting. The designer designed it with lots of ease in it, but I didn't want such a baggy project, so I did the smallest size. I don't recall the dimensions. The only modifications I've made is in the cuff. The designer wrote in short rows in the cuff for shaping, and I struggled with making them look good, so I skipped them. There are short rows in the neck and the back, more in the back than in the front, but a bit in the front too. Doing it both back and front, I think, does a nice job of keeping it on your shoulders and not being so snug on the neck. Yeah, I love it. In conclusion, I like both patterns equally. Okay, project number 37 is the Staycation Shawl. This is a pattern by Caroline Summerfield, the owner of Ancient Arts Yarns here in Calgary, where I go weekly for a knit group. And she conducted a knit along as the pattern was being released, and most of our knit group joined. It is her interpretation of a walk through her garden, down the cobblestone path, through the trees, some raised flower beds, an Italian garden bed, a tulip bed. The only modification I made is that I did not do the baubles on the tulips as the pattern has. Instead, I found buttons to sew on. I quite like how that turned out. And the cute little ladybug that one of the girls in our knit group gave us all. Cute. It's done in Socknado, which is an Ancient Arts yarn, of course, the kit that they put together. They called the colorway kit Midnight Swim. I don't recall the individual colors yet at the moment. But that was a fun knit. Nice and drapey. Socknado works very nice for a shawl. Now, nope. This guy's next. Project number 38 was Amadeus The Fox. Now this is from the book Knit a Square, Create a Cuddly Creature by Nikki Epstein. And this is what Mr. Fox is supposed to look like. I think I don't like him. He looks more like a rat than a fox. I think the ears are my problem. I didn't get them pointy enough. But I made it for my daughter. I made it in secret, hiding it in a little box here by my desk so that she never caught me. I managed to finish it all without getting caught. I used scrap yarns from my stash. So, my daughter enjoyed it. Sorry. Project number 39. The Elana Seafoam skirt that I made for myself. So along with my test knitters, I did this sample for myself. In this one I used Nettle Soft DK from Ancient Arts Yarns, the same yarn that I used in my crop top, Seafoam crop top. This is the colorway Amethyst. And Nettle Soft is a combination of wool and nettle, as I told you before. And I used 4mm needles, the same needles we used in the top. Yeah, there's nothing else to tell you about it because I've already showed you Elana's. Project number 40 was the Geogradient Mystery Knit Along. Let's put it on. I'm going to get warm. Pattern by Stephen West. His 14th annual Mystery Knit Along in October. He releases one portion of the clue every week for the month of October. So clue 1 was the center square. 2, maybe I'll have to take it off and show you it, but I wanted to show you the pin that my daughter made for me. Now I've got it inside out. Oh dear. I've got it inside out. Let's try that again. Oh. Now I've got it tangled. All right. Shawl pin my daughter made with bees on it. Okay, back to the project. Clue 1 was the center square. Clue 2 was these eyelet rows on either side. Clue 3 was the stitch where you carry the floats in the front of your work. And then clue 4 was all the way across the bottom, a dip 5 stitch. Lovely. Uses 3.5mm needles, which is the US 4. Fingering weight yarn. These 3 solid colors are Purple Carrots by Julie Osterling out of Quebec. And then this one is by Numana Yarns from Edmonton, a colorway she dyed for the Gathering Threads Festival in Edmonton. So a wool nylon cashmere blend, and then this one was a wool nylon and yak blend. So both very soft yarns. This turned out very nice and drapey and cuddly. I enjoyed it. I think I will participate in his knit along next year. Okay. FO number 41 is this Musselburgh hat for my daughter Elana. The Musselburgh is a pattern by Isolde Teague, and it's knit from one crown to the other in a tube, and then it tucks inside of itself to make a, oops, get in there, reversible hat, a double-sided hat. And you can adjust the length to whatever you require. It's written for any yarn. You start knitting and then you calculate your gauge, and she tells you how many stitches to get to on your needle. And you can fold up the brim and have the opposite color show up on your brim. So this one's for my daughter Elana. The yarns this is by Sea Turtle Fibers in the colorway Rainbow Bright out of Calgary. And then the other side is another Calgary dyer. Poppy yarn and fiber, and this was a 5-skein mini set that she called Study Buddies. They're a merino nylon stellina blend, so you should be able to see the sparkles in both of them. My daughter picked these colors out. And then Number 42 is this Musselburgh for me. I used Socknado yarns from Ancient Arts in the colorway The Bee's Knees. And you see there's some little purple in there because the bee skinned his knees. And then the other side is Contented Grapes. I finished this just a couple of days ago. Oops. Nice. I used 3.25 millimeters for both of my Musselburghs, but you use whatever needles works with your yarn to give you the fabric that you want. And then she does all the math for you in her pattern. And I had a really busy weekend. Then I finished the Anthology Throw, which I had on for you earlier, so I won't bother putting it back on. But I wore it like this to my congregation meeting yesterday. I don't know if I ever showed you that shawl pin. I bought it at Ancient Arts Yarns, but I don't remember what the brand is, who it's made by. Let's take that off. So this is actually a circular shawl, and I'll insert a picture of it all laid out on my floor. So the Anthology Throw, pattern by Helen Stewart, 4mm needles, fingering weight yarns. The yarns I used is the Memories in Yarn 2023 pack from Pearl Passion, which is 24 skeins of a merino nylon blend. And I haven't measured it as to what my finished circumference is, but it's quite large. Nice and drapey, nice and cuddly. I love it. Very few projects have I made that I don't love. I do not love Amadeus. Okay, and the final project I finished at 8:30 on December 23rd, just before the third period of the hockey game, was right here, Jeanine's hat. So this hat was a UFO, a non-finished object, in a box of yarn that my friend gave me when she was moving and had to downsize. So I finished the hat. It was very slow going finishing it because I kept it in my car as an emergency project, and it got maybe a few stitches at a time or every couple of weeks when I was waiting for something. And then I took it to the hockey game last night. Yeah, I'm recording this on Monday, the 1st. I took it to the hockey game last night and finished the crown. And it was on these fixed 16-inch circular 4mm needles. So I gotta tell you, that magic looping the crown was very hard. It was like knit a stitch, shuffle them all around, knit a stitch, shuffle them all around. But I did it. So I'm going to take it to my congregation meeting Tuesday night and offer it back to the friend. I don't know what the yarn is. The label was not on the ball, but I feel like it's a acrylic, sorry. Where is it? Here's what's left. There was a self-striping yarn, and it had a pom-pom on the top for the green pom-pom with it, which I put somewhere else, but I don't think I'm going to put the pom-pom on the hat. But that's that. 44 finished objects in 2023. I am amazed. I am shocked. I had no idea it was that much. When somebody else was saying that she finished 33, I was in shock at that. Now I'm in shock at my own numbers. So that was 2023. As we go into 2024, I hope that you're able to find some calm and a little bit of joy in this old world. Keep on doing what makes you happy. Knitting, crocheting, beading, needlework, Whatever it is that you like to do, go find some joy.